Continuing our conversation around Christian finances, and we've had quite a journey so far. We're talking about debt, borrowing, sharing, materialism. We talked about budgeting and planning. We've talked about saving and investing and how we can put away for our future, and how the Bible gives us some guidance and instruction on how to do that walk. And last week, John talked about a not so good use of our funds. How we can gamble them away, and the addictive nature of that, and how that's really not a good way for Christians to be stewards of their finances. And that brings us to some very important topics for this week and next week we're going to look at. And one of them is insurance protecting our loved ones. So insurance is a pretty major part of our life today. We feel like it's maybe more of a component than really it needs to be. And so we're going to talk about that today, and how we can look at the ideas of insurance through a little bit of a wise Christian lens. So I want to ask you a question. Start us out. Big open question here. What is insurance? What is it?
Protection.
Protection. Ooh, I like that. Very good. What are we protecting from?
Other people, ourselves.
Okay. Protection against other people's actions. Yes. So I wear body armor. That's protection, right? Okay. How is insurance a protection? Yes, sir.
It's a protection against risks.
Ooh. Oh, got that. Got risk. Okay. Okay. So I should wrap my car in spare tires and wear a helmet when I drive to work, and that protect me against risk, wouldn't it?
Flame retardant.
Flame retardant suit. Okay, in case I get hit and the car's burst into flames. I protect myself. What's that?
Drive a tank.
Drive a tank. Yeah. Okay. How is insurance a protection against risk? Yes, Linda.
I was just going to say it's sometimes is a contract between you and somebody else that they will insure you. I don't know.
I
if
can't
the
use the
word
word
is
in there
kind
yet.
of that
Uh-huh.
they'll protect you, or they will reimburse you
Okay.
in case of risk.
Okay, I like that. Not in case of risk, in case of
Well, in case of
loss. Yeah. Right. They're not going to pay me because I'm at risk, right?
But
I
you'd like to think that there's a contract. It doesn't always
Okay.
happen that
You know,
way.
Yeah, I mean, insurance, just because I buy insurance, does that automatically mean I'm going to get reimbursed for something that goes wrong? What do I have to do?
Read the fine print.
What do I have to do, though?
You have to have a claim.
I got to file a claim. Yeah, I have to say, would you please,
Determine
so-
who's at fault.
Then I have to hire a lawyer. Yeah, so let's think about that. Insurance is not a guarantee of reimbursement. Let's keep that in mind. So, maybe those who have not had to deal with this yet understand that. It's not a guarantee, because having an insurance policy doesn't mean someone's going to write me a check, right? So, reimbursement, now we're on a different page, we're on a different path here. Where are you going with that? Protection against loss that provides reimbursement.
Specific term.
Oh, there's terms. Okay, I like that.
There's terms to it, because sometimes they'll say, oh, I'll give you this certain amount, but then, oh, because this happened, oh, we can't give you that full amount.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh,
depending on the situation.
Yeah. That's why we file a claim. The claim is reviewed by an adjuster who looks to make sure that everything's legitimate, and in fact, you upheld the terms of the agreement. Okay. This is a financial contract. Okay. Nobody's going to come and just hand me a new car. What are they going to do if my car gets destroyed?
They're going to reduce your own one as much as you
Yeah.
can.
Right, there's going to be some financial reimbursement that, just because I have insurance on my car doesn't mean they come and just take my wrecked car away and I come and replace a brand new car in my driveway. This is a financial transaction, right, based on some terms that's, subject to the terms of the claim, right? What is my loss? So we're going to look at a lot of these types of things today. And you've already talked on a couple. What is risk? It's a very important concept. What is risk?
Living.
The chance.
Chance, I like that. That's very good. I might get my different color marker here. I like that. Keep going. The It's a chance. It's a chance of something happening.
Unexpected,
What's that?
unexpected event.
Unexpected event, okay? So risk, chance, are things unexpected? Are there degrees of risk that are expected?
Mhm.
Yeah,
The risk is expected, but the occurrence not necessarily.
there's degrees here, right? So I'm gonna say likelihood of an issue, right? What's the likelihood of something happening versus, not very likely, right? Versus, you go messing with that, you're probably gonna have odds, yeah.
Like the
Ooh.
lottery, 50/50, you never know.
Yeah.
The lottery is nowhere near 50/50.
Yeah,
you're
that's right. So, a situation involving exposure to danger. That's the that's dictionary.com definition of risk. It's a situation involving exposure to danger. All right, so how much danger? How likely is the danger? Right? That results in loss, financial loss. Right? The only thing we can really work on here is putting a financial definition to something, right? If I am in some accident and I lose my leg, they're not going to give me a new leg. What are they going to do? There's going to be a financial amount put on the cost of losing a leg, and that will be the reimbursement for that, right? Same with the car. Well, what's the financial loss here? Well, it was a 20-year-old car that had 180,000 miles on it. Air conditioning didn't work. But I want a new one. Now, what was the loss? Replace that car, right? So that's the concept of it. Yes, sir.
They're almost never going to replace it with a new one, but they promise to replace it with an equivalent.
Equivalent, right. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But let's look at risk here. Situation involving exposure to danger, right? Exposure to danger, harm, or loss. So you've got danger, right? That could be defined a lot of ways. Harm, right? Am I likely to be harmed or not? And then there'd be some loss involved in it, right? Some financial loss or some material loss, loss of life, loss of health, something like that, right? Or the probability of an event occurring. So think about probabilities. Was it, everybody drive to church this morning?
No, I didn't.
Likelihood of danger? What would you say the likelihood of danger was? What's it based on?
How far you have to
Traffic,
travel.
so what's that based on?
Where you're coming from.
Where you coming from? Yeah.
What road you take.
Yeah, I think we might have driven the farthest, maybe the Kirchner's probably equal distance, I think. Oh,
We're
maybe
like
I
a
go there
30-minute drive.
You have a 30-minute drive? Oh, you have a 30-minute drive? Okay, you win the lottery. So, did you come down 28 minutes? Did you come down I-10?
The streets.
The streets? Okay, is that more risky than taking the freeway? No.
No,
If you're on a motorcycle, which is more risky, the freeway or the streets?
freeway.
I saw a guy last
Ah,
night.
streets and freeway.
Surprise.
Yeah.
I saw a guy last night on the motorcycle on the freeway doing about 70 in Wheelie.
Yeah, down the freeway?
Yeah.
Yeah. I always feel like when I had a motorcycle, like if I'm moving the traffic, I'm in a little bit better shape than, it's riskier to go through red lights. I remember I took a class and they said, don't ever be the first, this is a motorcycle rider, don't ever be the first or the last person to an intersection. And that has always stuck with me. It's like, and you watch an intersection, watch the last guy or gal through the intersection. It's like, whoa, or the first one. The first one through, what's going to happen? If the light turns green, I just gun it.
There's gonna be
Somebody's trying to, right? So, streets are, so risk is where I'm driving, how far I'm driving, what's the vehicle I'm driving. It's a lot of risk calculation there based on that. Yes, sir.
I was a passenger on a bus and I saw it crash at an intersection and it was the second car that got hit. The first one made it.
Oh, first one made it, second one.
The second one got hit.
Okay, good deal. Yes, sir.
I don't know, what was this, 5, 6 years ago? The animal hospital next to our restaurant spilled a bunch of ethylene oxide.
What is that?
It's, they use it to clean all the medical equipment, sterilizing it.
Oh, yeah.
There was like 15 fire trucks that pulled up. I didn't even know what was going on. They had people fainting next door. They told everyone, get out, right, in our restaurant, everything. Couldn't even enter back in. They closed down my restaurant for 10 days for hazmat to clean up the whole building, right? Well, I didn't know I actually, in my insurance, I never had a chemical spill for coverage.
They did a waiver for chemicals.
So they did not pay. So I went to the animal hospital's insurance and I'm like, hey, are you gonna pay? I just lost at least $20,000 in business. We were closed like 10, 11 days. I had to throw out probably $15,000 worth of food. Everything in the store had to go. And they said, no, they don't have coverage to cover you. So basically, if you want your money back, you gotta take us to court. I called the landlord, I'm like, hey, can I get a pass on rent this month? You know what they did? And their landlord's like, no, that's what insurance is
That's
for.
what
You gotta
insurance
pay or we're locking
Yeah.
the door.
So you gotta think about so that takes us to our next,
Well, I was one more step, but I was gonna say, when I asked how much would it cost to put ethylene oxide, so if this happens again on my insurance, the insurance company said, well, after that happened, about $1,000 a month. So I had to go, is the probability worth it?
right. So we're gonna look at that. That's kind of
And
where
I didn't add it.
That's kind of where we're going to. We're going to look at that. So what is the likelihood of that happening again? All right. I remember, what was that movie, the old movie, World According to Orc, or it was a Robin Williams movie. What was that movie? Anyway, he was looking at a house, he was looking to buy a house, and right as he's looking at the house, an airplane crashes into the house. He says, this is the house for us, let's buy this. What's the odds of an airplane ever crashing in this house again? You know? So it's like you have to look at risk. You know, what's the likelihood of something happening? And that's always there's no mathematical form. There were probably you can do some. You know, that's what actuaries do. They look at risk and exposure to risk. But that's what we kind of have to do. Is you have to figure out, you know, how likely is the harm or loss going to happen, and then what's the cost of recovery? So if something happens, what is the cost of recovering from that incident? So what is the cost of recovery? What do we mean by that? Important concept.
We gotta fork it up.
Yeah. What is the process of recouping expenses, right, as a result of an activity or an action, right? So what's the cost? If my business gets impacted again for X amount of days, what's going to be the cost of recovering that? All right. So these are the two factors we're going to be looking at today. These two things work hand in hand. All right, and it's going to lead us down a decision path. So let's look and see what the Bible says about it. Proverbs 22:3 and 27:12 say essentially the same thing. The prudent sees danger and hides himself. Some translations say take cover. But the simple go on and suffer for it. Some say suffer the consequences. So what do you make of that?
Well, I stood prepared.
Yeah, the prudent sees danger. Okay? So there's, you know, in the simple, what's it mean by the simple?
Not real good.
Not too sharp,
Yeah.
right? Blunders ahead and pays the consequences. That's basically what it's saying. So there is some biblical foundation for saying, hey, take cover, protect yourself, hide yourself, with the, I think the ESV says. Takes cover, right? Protects yourself. So there's prudence in that. There's prudence in looking ahead and seeing danger and taking protection. There's prudence in that, right? If you just blunder on ahead into dangerous situations, thinking, nothing's going to happen, nothing's ever going to happen, I'm bulletproof. That's what, 18-year-olds do, right? Riding a wheelie down the freeway at 7 miles an hour. Nothing's ever going to happen, right? As opposed to the prudent, thinks about protecting themselves. So, we're going to look at this 2x2 grid here. We're going to take these two things, these two concepts. If we look at risk on one axis here from low to high, so low risk, high risk, we can have activities, actions, situations, maybe my health. There's all kinds of things that you can put on that, right? Risky behaviors. And then you look at cost recovery, low to high. So the cost to recover could be very, very low, or the cost to recover could be very, very high. Cost recovery for Cass's business is high, right? Something bad goes wrong, that could put you out of business, right? So that's the high end of the scale. Cost of recovery being low. I went to bought a cord or something at Best Buy recently. It was like $10. And he said, "You want to buy insurance for this?" I was buying a cord. I'm like, yeah, I'll pay $3 more to protect this cord. I mean, how dumb. I'll buy another cord. You know, it's $10. The cost of recovery is low, right? If something happens to the cord, I'll buy another cord, right?
And they only give you a certain amount of time too.
Yeah, I mean, why would I increase the cost of this thing 30% just in case I lose it? I mean, that's just not, that doesn't seem prudent to me, right? So we're gonna look at things on this axis. What if something is high risk, in other words, likelihood's high that there's danger, and cost of recovery is high? So likelihood's high, I'm living in a very risky place, or I have a risky behavior that I'm following, you know, something like that, or there's been a trend of this. Maybe my business has been broken into 3 times, and all the people around me are getting broken into. Whatever it is, the risk is high, and the cost of recovery is high. What should I do, Jim?
That's like owning a home in Florida.
Yeah, on a tornado coast, or a hurricane coast. Yeah, and I've got a $3 million home on the Florida coast. High risk, high cost recovery. What would you do there? What would you put in that box? What should I do? Teresa?
I just say, it's gonna be high insurance.
What should I do? Should I buy insurance?
A lot of people don't.
I'm asking a question here. Should I pay for insurance if I've got a situation that's high risk and high cost recovery?
Well, it depends, because like in California, you know, with the fires, they don't have insurance, like they have insurance, but it doesn't cover the fires.
Well, there's all kinds of
Depending
issues.
on-
with that.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
yeah.
it's like,
And then
But
Arizona,
but what should I do? If I find myself, all things being equal, in a high risk, high cost recovery situation, what should I do? It's not a trick question. Insure.
Yeah.
Think I should buy insurance?
it depends on how much money you have.
Well, hang on, hold on to that. Yeah, let's say all things being equal, let's say the neutral, you know, an average guy or gal, I should probably insure that.
Do you
That-
have a family?
What's that?
Do you have a family? Take care of.
Well, I'm just looking at the situation. High risk, high likelihood something's going to happen, and the cost of recovery is high. Now, so let's. Now, obviously, Isaac. I mean, is your job dangerous? I don't know.
I would say so.
Your job's probably pretty dangerous. You could drop a engine on your foot, you know, or something. Probably wouldn't scare you, but you know, you could get hurt in your job, right?
body.
Yeah, you hurt your back, maybe, right? You could look at different kind of jobs as high risk. David, you travel a lot for your job.
Yeah.
I'd consider that fair medium risk, you know, traveling on the road especially a lot. Right? That's a high. Now, what's the cost if something happens to you? Is there,
Could be a lot.
yeah, you're the mother of 3 little kids. I mean, it's kind of important that you have some, I mean, so there's some extra, I'd say there's medium to high risk, medium risk, not high risk, medium risk. If you're a shrimp boat captain, I'd say maybe high risk, right? But medium risk, cost recovery high. If something happens to Isaac, they're kind of in trouble. So they might look at insurance. It makes sense, right? You see what we're talking about? If something is low risk, in other words, not really low risk behavior, but cost recovery is still high. What do you think about that?
Insure.
You'd insure that? Okay.
It's probably still cheaper. I mean, if the risk is low, the insurance might not be prohibitive.
Okay. We'd probably say consider insurance in this case. Consider it. It's kind of what you're saying, Jim. Wait it here. Say, wait a minute, it's not likely something's going to happen. So, have you ever heard of being insurance poor?
Yeah.
You ever hear that concept? There are people who get insurance poor. They insure everything. They buy their warranty on everything. They, expect everything to. And you can get talked into this stuff when you make purchases. You notice that? And they always talk to me in extended warranties. We kind of took the philosophy that all the money, I never buy the extended warranty. All the money I've saved and never buy the extended warranty pays for anything that will break. I'll deal with it. Especially if it's low risk. You know, even if I buy like I don't know what a TV costs today, $800 or whatever. It's not high cost. It's medium, and it's the risk of my TV blowing up is not high. I'll deal with that. Right? Now, the higher the cost to recover gets, the more you got to do the math there and say, does it make sense then to buy it? So we'd say consider it at that point. Consider it and do the math. Figure out whether or not likelihood justifies the expenditure. Yeah. Thoughts about those two?
I would say too, like, you don't know what's gonna happen in the next
Yeah.
second. So God says that too, like,
Yeah.
who are we to say that we know
Right.
what's gonna happen?
Right.
So I think that
Yeah.
insuring is probably okay.
Yeah,
Even if it is low.
Yeah, the Bible says, hey, protect yourself. If there's danger, that's what I was saying. If there's danger out here, it makes sense to look at some protection, right? It doesn't always make sense if the danger is low, if there isn't any danger, right? Any other thoughts? How about risk is high and the cost recovery is low?
Depends on how much money you have
Yeah.
and how critical it is to replace it.
Yeah. Did you ever hear about self-insure, basically? What we consider to be self-insure. So,
Savings.
yeah, so this is why we have emergency funds and things like that, right? This is why we have, 3 to 6 months of income stored away. Because likelihood's not high, likelihood might be high, but the cost really isn't that big of a deal. So it's like, I'll have it. It's possible here in Arizona, your air conditioner goes out. That's possible, right? Now, I'm not a fan of, we've been here, I don't know how many air conditioners we put in now. A couple different houses, 3 air conditioning units in 22 years. I would have some money set aside to fix your air conditioning. It's likelihood high, your air conditioning is eventually going to go out in Arizona. Your car battery is going to go out. It's going to happen. Now, the cost is low. Cost is low on a car battery, right? I wouldn't have insurance on my car battery. It's ridiculous, right? It's so low, I'm going to spend as much on insurance in 2 years as I would have been just buying a battery every 2 years, right? So you have to make a calculation like that. So that's what we just say to self-insure. Have the money set aside to do the recovery on something that's likely to happen. Yeah? But everybody's financial calculation is different, right? Based on your income, your savings, your lifestyle, things like that. But there is some merit to say just self-insure. Just have the money set aside for that, or throw some money in an account that I'm going to use to pay that kind of. I'll deal with it, right? I don't know. I want to go and get what we were talking about before. I'm not sure I want to get in a contract with somebody and then have to file a claim. They say no. Does that make a lot of sense on something that's low cost recovery? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think sometimes self-insuring certain things like what you're talking about is wiser. Because sometimes going through the whole claim process, it's getting more in the way than I could have just dealt with it. I'm crafty myself, but I found my own way.
Yeah.
More money. We've been through it already too. We insured our AC and like idiots, and we lost a lot of money. So
Yeah,
we could have saved that money and then had money for the AC, but we.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, just think about. I don't mean to put down the home warranty thing, but let's just think about this rationally for a second. The insurance business is probably the most profitable business model you can have. Very, very profitable. Why is it so profitable? They made a calculation that says, for this amount of money a month, I'm going to bet that you won't claim more than what you're paying in a premium. So if they're going to make that bet, I'll take that bet. I'll bet that. I'll bet that I won't have more claim amount than I'm going to pay you in a premium. I'll take that bet. You're right. I agree with you. So then why would I pay you that? I'll pay myself that money. I'll just keep that money. Because your guys and all your experts have said, I'm not a bad risk. So just to me it doesn't make sense. Now, as the cost of recovery gets higher, then it gets a little weird. And it's like, would that bankrupt me? That's why you carry medical insurance, right? In case you had a hospital stay or something like that. You're like, oh man. As long as it's not too expensive. It might get to the point where you're like, hey, I'm better off self-insuring my medical too, because if I'm 25 years old and single and healthy, I don't know if I'd have health insurance. Probably wouldn't. Now they don't make you get it anymore. I don't think I would. I don't know. That's a calculation everybody has to make themselves. But the older you get, the higher the cost of recovery becomes, and the higher the risk becomes, right? How about low risk, low cost recovery?
Take it to the chin.
My little cable. My little cable. I'm gonna let it roll. Let's let it ride. Why would I insure? But there's people that'll say yes to that. In fact, when that happened, I said, does anybody ever say yes to this? And the guy says, yeah. I'm like, These are the same people that complain about inflation, just made the cost of that thing cost $3 more. You know, I don't understand that. So, real quick, saying that when we had kids in school, teenagers, we were buying them a cell phone, and Laura had one stolen and then one lost. And I'm like, okay, all right. Now we got a trend, you know. So we got our new phone, but we paid insurance for that thing because it's like, I don't know these things. They were a little expensive, and it was. I'm like, the likelihood of this thing getting stolen or lost again is high. But then as the amount we owed on that cell phone dropped, we shut it off. Right? I carried it for the first several months. So I'm like, I don't want to buy another $800 cell phone where those things are costing. You know, so I'm like, okay, I'll pay $8 a month for a few months. And then once the payment on the cell phone brought the amount we owed down, I just shut it off. Right? I'll pay for the cell phone again. Right? I said, it's your last one. Yes, sir.
Isn't that let it roll the same as self-insured?
Yeah, I'll just let it roll. I mean, who cares? Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah. So what are your thoughts? Do you like this approach? Rather than just buying insurance for everything or taking a risk on everything? I mean, there's some times where it makes sense. And what seems to be the driver here?
High risk, you know, sure, lower.
And the cost of this thing. Like, what is going to be the impact if something were to happen? That's, you know, you're making this kind of a little bit of a calculation. I'm willing to go ahead and pay some money and have a real peace of mind that I've got some protection should something happen. But don't just automatically think I've got to buy insurance for everything. I've got to insure everything.
Is there a third axis you could add in there somewhere about the cost of the actual insurance, like your premium and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's yeah. What is this going to make sense? You know, that's what we're saying. The cost of the insurance is generally associated with the cost of the recovery, more than it is even the risk itself. It's more of like, what's it going to cost them should something happen? So
Times 10 usually, though.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like premiums are out of control.
Yeah, and you know, do we even need to do this? You know, what is the? I mean, so we're going to talk about some other things here. But I think we're going to start to explore that here in a second. So there's different kinds of insurance. I'm just going to touch on these briefly and just maybe some terms and things that we can think about. Maybe individually we haven't dealt with these yet. But let's look at health insurance first. First of all, there's a high deductible and a low deductible approach to health insurance today. And this is the big calculation that people like us have to make, right? How much, do I have $10,000 in liquid money that I could get to if I had to? If I do, there's my high deductible. What's the advantage of having a high deductible insurance program? Lower monthly cost, right? I'm going to pay you less a month, and I've got to, because if something happens, I'll just, you know, my deductible will cover it. But don't you kind of feel like a sucker? You know, it's like, I'm paying you money every month, and then if I have a claim, I got to go pay for it out of my deductible here, right? Or out of my savings account. So don't you kind of feel like, what am I paying this for, right? But what if I want to go with a high deductible or a low deductible?
Higher monthly,
I'm
but
gonna,
if you go to the doctor often, like you have little kids or
Yeah.
have surgeries, then you're reaching your deductible faster, and then you don't have to pay as much.
yeah, but right. So I feel like, well, if I'm paying you $500 a month for this insurance to have a low deductible, and I never have a claim, then I feel like an idiot too. Like, either way you look at this. Yeah, I mean, so you've got to kind of normally you've got to make some kind of decision here. We're going to look at another approach in just a second. Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of, it's a calculation. Do I just want to have the peace of mind that if something big happens? I mean, is $10,000 going to wipe me out? If $10,000 is going to wipe me out, then maybe you're better off having a low deductible. But if if something bad happens and I've got to eat $7,000 or $10,000 in deductible for a year, it's like I just as soon have a lower payment and keep my committed expenditure low. That's just kind of the way we've approached it. If something bad happens, we'll deal with that. You know, but insurance is this risk-reward gamble thing. How about life insurance? So what is this insuring?
Your life.
Well, show your income.
Well, let's look at it from a life insurance. What is the justification for life insurance, generally speaking?
It's going to insure my family if something happens to Brian.
Yeah, his life is insured. Something happens to his life. We have a loss of life. There's a financial definition of that. That's the historical understanding of what life insurance is. Okay, so and for most of Western civilization, this term life, the one at the top, is what that is. I'll go out and I'll spend some money a month, and it's worth a certain amount. If something happens, say, I don't know, say you spend, $400 or $500 a year, have life insurance on Brian, maybe it's $250,000, something happens to Brian, the family puts in a claim and they get paid out, $250,000 to help Linda get those kids through, maybe get the house paid off, whatever you're gonna do with that money to be able to recover, because the cost of recovery is high for a mother who's home with kids and no prime breadwinner. She gotta figure out what she's gonna do, and that money carries her through that time frame to get things figured out. That's what term life insurance is, right? But what happened over time was people were paying a bunch of money in term life insurance and went, I'm never getting anything, that I don't die, the term expires and the money's gone. So they came up with this idea of permanent life, and it turned into all these other investment vehicles. Now, I don't want to get into what all that is, but I'll just say I'm not a fan. I mean, it's trying to have your cake and eat it too, basically. It's trying to say I want life insurance, but I also don't want to just throw all this money away. I like to get something back as an investment later on, and that's the whole concept of it. Is later on in life it starts to have a cash value. Do your research. That's all I would say before you do that. Do your research. There's no free lunch. That's all I'll say. Yes, sir.
There are lots of books about that, how life insurance policies scam you, and life insurance policies rob you.
Yeah.
Books have been written
Yeah.
about that. But term life is like car insurance.
Yeah. You don't use it, you don't need it. But if you don't have it, something bad happens, right? And those whole universal variable index, those are all different kinds of investment programs that are basically taking a life insurance policy and trying to make an investment vehicle out of it. Yes, sir.
And those permanent life policies are why the banks and the insurance companies have the biggest buildings in town.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like the casinos.
Yeah, right. Disability insurance. Short term. What's short term disability? What do you mean by that?
6 months.
You're gonna get recovered.
6 months.
Usually less than a year. Usually short term, anything less than a year normally. And different companies offer different things, but basically to keep me, if I have some kind of injury, I can't work for less than a year, it'll pay 66% of my income or something for that period of time. And so some people with dangerous jobs have that. Now some employers offer that automatically as a benefit for their people. And if you're in a high risk, got to do a calculation there. Is it worth buying? Long-term disability, now we're talking about something over a year. Maybe it's, going to carry me for quite a while. It's generally more expensive. Again, you can look at different kinds of insurances that aren't life, but they're against some kind of, injury or something. Long-term care insurance, right? You have to think about, do I want on-site care, in-home care? When would I want to start thinking about this?
Not when you're 25.
What would it cost you as a 25-year-old to have long-term care insurance?
Not that much.
Pretty cheap.
It'd be a waste of money,
Be a waste of money.
in my opinion.
Is risk high?
Not at all. Not really.
No.
I think it is important though, like when you're young, to start like putting money away for retirement, which is something that.
Yeah, that's next week. I know that. Next week. Yeah. I mean, on-site, different employers offer different things like that. My mother was a Fed, so they had that through her job. It was great, but then she died before she ever used it. She paid into that. Like it wasn't real expensive, but she paid into it for like most of her working career, and then died before she ever turned it on. Because this is how they make all their money. And I was saying, I'm like, I can't believe this. The money she spent. I'll just say this: the money she spent on long-term care insurance, and then the last year or two of her life when she should have been in it, she was fighting, didn't want to go in. Kept saying, don't put me in a little room. And I'm like, Mom, I'm not going to put you in a little, I don't. But she paid for long-term care insurance, and then when she needed it, she was scared to death to activate it. And then she died and never activated it. I'm like, what was the point of that? What was the point of that? I mean, I was just, the most frustrating thing, I'm like, I just felt like, who sold you on this? Like, you had no intention of ever using this anyway. Why did you, got to make those kind of decisions, right? And based on risk and cost. Umbrella insurance, this is like, you've heard of gap insurance, things like that. These are kind of plans that'll maybe pick up a gap. Medicare has these types of insurances where they'll, pick up what, they'll, what is it? I'm not on Medicare, but there's different things that'll pay, like between what Medicare pays and what the doctor bills you. What's that?
Medigap,
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Medicare supplement.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of umbrella plans that you get like that. Liability insurance for your business. I'm sure you guys have that. Any business owners have things like that. Maybe insurance that protects your business from vandalism, things like that. And then you can have, obviously, things that protect your property, right? We have to ask ourselves, is it worth buying comprehensive insurance on a 2000 Honda Civic with 160,000 miles on it? I mean, is that worth it? What am I going to get? If something if I run into a tree with this car, and what am I going to get out of this?
No one just like that.
Replace the tree.
It might replace the tree. Yeah.
I personally
but-
hate auto insurance.
I mean, so yeah, I have to ask yourself, and there's a lot of people who just buy a policy and just let it roll and never look at it. We were talking last week about that. People that just buy a policy and let it roll and never do the calculation and say, well, what is the cost of recovery here? Right? What is the risk? Now, liability, if I buy a little 2000 Civic, I hit a kid in a crosswalk, what's the cost of recovery of that? Pretty high. Millions, maybe. I should have liability insurance, right? And injury to protect that child that got hurt, right? Or passengers in my car, or whatever. That's what your liability insurance covers, right? But do I want, here's the other one. Windshields here in Arizona. Anybody? So, I don't know. What's your thoughts about that?
$100, it'll be all right.
How much would a windshield cost?
I just paid $570 for my car.
Okay. So, what kind of car is that?
The Subaru.
You know why? Because that eyesight stuff up in there?
3 cameras.
Yep, that's why. Normally you're driving a Jeep or something, maybe a couple $100, for a windshield. So you have to ask yourself, is a cost, can I pay $500 for a windshield? Probably can. So either self-insure or let it roll, right, I would say. I don't know that I would go and get a glass waiver and pay him every month for the windshield thing, and I just don't know if I would do that. Now, you've got to make the decision yourself. If you're driving on I-10 and it's construction season, maybe you're going to get a lot of chips and cracks in your windshield.
Well, that's like for me, since I drive around a lot, I have it on my vehicle, but I'm all over the place, and I'm a magnet for rocks apparently too. I went through 3 windshields in 1 year once. So.
Okay, so your risk is high.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, like I say, maybe you're driving a car that has a lot, so you got to make a calculation there, decide what you want to do. But there's just an example where, we can get a little, insurance poor when we don't really need to. So be thinking of, do your calculation. We just said if we break our windshields, I'll pay for a windshield. I'm not going to put that on. I'm not going to pay you every month for a part of a windshield. I'm just not going to do that. So sources of finance, obviously, we've talked about emergency funds. How much do you think you should have in an emergency fund? What's your thoughts, folks?
A year's salary.
No, what's that?
A year's salary.
A year's salary? Whoa. A year's salary. Well, that's a good one. I mean, I don't know. It's no high for me, but emergency fund. What is an emergency fund?
We have 2 different emergency funds. We have a $1,000 emergency fund, and then we have a 6-month emergency fund. So.
Yeah, so that's why we've got 2 things in here. Emergency fund, that's to pay for stuff that might, your air conditioning breaks, maybe, car breaks down, So I don't have to pay somebody I'll just self-insure that, right? And a good rule of thumb is to have at least $1,000 in an emergency fund. I'd say more like maybe $5,000 today. I mean, or whatever maybe an air conditioner costs. Something like that.
10,000.
Yeah, 10,000. Yeah, 10,000. I mean, so you could probably make an argument, something like that, right? Now, a contingency fund, this is, I think, where you're going. That's about right? This is your 3 to 6 months, 6 months to 12 months salary, something like that. Because what do you mean by a contingency fund? What are we talking about? something goes wrong. I lose my job, you know, health problem, I didn't have insurance.
Husband sits on the couch for 2 months.
There you
No
go.
work.
So, yeah, your seasonal, right? Your contingency, right? And then of course your savings, that's just your liquid savings. That might be what you buy a car with, right? So now we're talking about, I'm not gonna tap into my contingency fund to buy a car. You save up for that. Your investment fund, we talked about that last couple weeks ago. And then what are you gonna budget for insurance? What are you gonna budget for that kind of stuff? You know, versus, you know, just having it unbudgeted and draining. Then your retirement savings. So there's different sources of finance there. And so starting next week, we're going to look at insurance and how that, saving for retirement and how these things all kind of play together. And how we can have a plan here that's, you know, because this all started with budgeting, remember? How do we set aside what it is we're going to do and how we're going to do it? What's our plan, right? So insurance is a major part of that. Where does insurance play in that? So final thoughts. Wrap us up. That went quick. Final thoughts.
Thank you for class.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. Self-insure. You know, think about it. Think about how you're going to use your funds here to self-insure, and I think you'll find to save a lot of money on your. You get that park there, and next thing you know, my budget's smaller because I'm not having to pay into it every. I've got it there. I don't have to pay into it every month. So, well, thank you very much. So next week we'll come back. We'll talk about saving for retirement and start looking long term. Okay, sound good? All right. See you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.